Gavin Lux just got traded over to the Reds. Let's discuss on Fantasy Baseball Today Express. Welcome into the brand new FBT Express. On Tuesday, January 7th, I am Frank Stampfl, joined by Scott White. FBT Express is virtually the same thing as our previous FBT in 5. We're just going to go a little bit longer. So expect 8 to 10 minutes, more content for you. Let's go over some news and notes, Scott. And just today, or yesterday when you're listening to this, the Dodgers traded away Gavin Lux. They traded him to the Cincinnati Reds in exchange for an outfield prospect, Mike Sirota, and a competitive balance round A draft pick, which should be around 37th overall. Last week, we also learned that they signed Korean infielder Hyeseong Kim. So lots of moving parts here. Do you expect Hyeseong Kim to be a starter for the Dodgers? And where, if anywhere, is Gavin Lux going to play for the Reds?
Yeah, this is an interesting trade. And part of what makes it so interesting is that the principal pieces involved don't matter so much. It's just the chaos it creates and the uncertainty it creates in both the Dodgers and Reds lineups. So we kept hearing from the Dodgers, Mookie Betts is going to be the starting shortstop because Gavin Lux is going to play second. Well, now that Gavin Lux isn't going to play second, does that mean Mookie Betts can move to second? Hyeseong Kim, I think, would be a better shortstop if they decided to go that route. But he had played second base most recently in South Korea, and so maybe they keep Betts at shortstop and go with Kim at second. Or maybe Hyeseong Kim fills the role that they said he was going to fill when they signed him. He's a utility infielder, and they bring in Tommy Edman from center field to play shortstop, sliding Mookie Betts over to second, and allow Andy Paez, young power hitter, to play center field. I think that would be the preferable situation for fantasy, in no small part because it would mean Mookie Betts gaining eligibility at second base, the most coveted eligibility of all this year. And pivoting to the Reds lineup, that most coveted eligibility of second base is also in jeopardy for Matt McLain because he doesn't have second base eligibility, at least not in CBS Sports leagues. The position he played most in 2023, when last healthy, was shortstop. So that's all he has heading into 2025. We presume he's going to be the Reds' second baseman, but Gavin Lux is a second baseman. So Matt McLain, he got some time in center field in the Arizona Fall League. Is that what they're thinking? Do the Reds want McLain playing mostly center field? If so, then he doesn't get that coveted second base eligibility. But so far, the scuttlebutt is that Gavin Lux was acquired to be a utility player. And that would lead me to believe Matt McLain is still the thought is he'll still primarily be a second baseman, but maybe spending some time in the outfield. So we'll see how it all shakes out. But that's the main thing I'm looking at with this Gavin Lux deal is, does it now mean Mookie Betts will get second base eligibility? Does it now mean Matt McLain won't? Those are the two biggest questions for me.
Yeah.
Have we talked about Hyeseong Kim yet, like the actual value?
No, you can talk about him.
The main thing he brings to the table is speed, but it's a question of how much he gets on base. He's not going to be a power hitter. He is a good contact hitter, but he's not a contact hitter on the level of like a Jung-Hoo Lee, who turned out to, for the little time he was healthy for the Giants, he wasn't hugely impactful in fantasy. So it's not clear that he'll bring enough with the bat, Hyeseong Kim, to take advantage of that speed, which is partly why I say I'd rather see Andy Paez in center for the Dodgers.
Yeah, it feels like there will be position battles all around for both teams. For the Dodgers, you mentioned multiple permutations. It might just come down to, in spring, who performs better. Andy Paez, Hyeseong Kim. We've heard James Outman's name thrown out there as well. And then for the Reds, we have different ways this can go where Gavin Lux could play second. He could maybe play third. He can maybe play an outfield spot. Maybe Matt McLain moves to the outfield. Noelvi Marte is kind of on the outside looking in. So it'll all come down to how do these guys play in spring. And of course, injuries will happen throughout the season and all those types of things as well. Let's take a quick break. When we return, we'll talk about Charlie Morton signing with the Orioles. We'll do that right after this. Welcome back in the brand new FBT Express. The Orioles made their big pitching move, Scott. I say that facetiously, by signing Charlie Morton to a 1-year, $15 million contract. Morton is now 41 years old, coming off a subpar season. The whiffs have taken a step back. Control has been a problem the past couple of years. Is there any fantasy value here for Charlie Morton in Baltimore?
I mean, probably not. I can squint and still make out a scenario where he's useful in fantasy. His last 3 years in Atlanta, he wasn't. But the way he got worse, they're not the ways you'd expect a 40-something-year-old to get worse. His velocity held pretty steady. His curveball is still one of the highest RPM pitches in baseball. It's just the walks went up. And is that something you associate with age? Not really. So under a new coaching staff, could he maybe wind that back and start throwing more strikes? I guess potentially, but I've been waiting for Morton to do that for several years now, and it hasn't happened. So I'm not inclined to bet on it, especially given how deep the pitching pool is this year.
Updated Orioles rotation: Grayson Rodriguez, Zach Eflin, Charlie Morton, Tomoyuki Sugano, who they signed from Japan, and Dean Kramer. They still could use another piece up at the top. Offseason is not over. Maybe they go out and trade for Dylan Cease. I think that makes a lot of sense, but it hasn't happened yet, so we shall see. Lastly, the Rangers signed reliever Chris Martin to a 1-year deal, and he's had a very solid career. He's only has 14 career saves. He's never been a full-time closer. The Rangers still could go out and sign a closer, Scott. They haven't yet. So if the season started tomorrow, I would bet on Chris Martin getting saves, but obviously things can still change.
I mean, I guess you have to bet on somebody. It doesn't seem like that's at least he's turning 39 this year, Chris Martin. He
was still really good last season, for what it's worth.
Really good, like a 3.40 ERA, right?
Yeah.
He's been a good bridge to closer for a long time, but he struggles to stay healthy. He can be home run prone at times, and it just seems like a desperation move for a team with legitimate playoff aspirations. There are a lot of prospective closers still on the market, so I don't think he ultimately winds up the closer. But sure, if the season started today, I guess Chris Martin would be the Rangers closer.
All right. For more extensive fantasy baseball coverage, listen to our full-length podcast, Fantasy Baseball Today. You can listen on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or anywhere else podcasts are found. Thanks for listening to Fantasy Baseball Today Express, and we will be back again tomorrow. Bye-bye.